Thank you for attending Worldwide Slot Car Chat number 74. I'm your host, Greg Gaub. Gang's all here. We got Petrucci, Henry, Jim, Chuck, John, Lance, Big Den, Don, Jeremy, John McKenzie, a.k.a. Iceman, Garth, Dennis Sampson, a.k.a. Little Den, John Underwood, Alan Watkinson, and connecting to audio, otherwise known as Frank. So, and people who don't have cameras are, of course, also joining us as normal. Today we will start as normal with show and tell. I do not have any show and tell. If you have show and or tell, please raise your hand. I know Petrucci has something that he wants to show and tell. Go ahead and start us off, Petrucci. Be sure to unmute yourself. There you go.
You know, you get the eBay on your e-box saying you might be interested in something that you looked at on thing. Anyway, one come up and it was a bid on something that I've looked at. I thought, well, I'll bid on it. I didn't expect to win, but what happened was, a couple of days ago, this come along.
And can you tell us what it is?
It's a wheel adjustment.
It's a Rusket building jig out of the 1960s. Beautiful. Yeah. Brand new in its box, unused.
And I thought to myself, for $50, that ain't bad.
Yeah. Yeah, especially seeing as it's in a nice box still.
And I got the instructions as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the first building jig available as far as I can remember.
That might have been your one, John. You're selling it.
Yeah, there's John's showing off his. Did you just get one too, John? Are you going to show that off? Or is that in your...
No, I've had this for a while, but I just want to say that I'm not the only one addicted to these things, because I only have 3.
Jesus.
I've only got one.
Well, I just like you, I've got one that's perfect, and then I actually use 2. They actually come in very, very handy. You'll enjoy using it.
It was when I was watching one of your programs, you was using it, and I thought to myself, well, I need to get one of those.
I know that pushers shouldn't be users, but they're really good.
Awesome. Good stuff, Petrucci.
Yeah. Nice.
Looks like we're ready to move on to the next show and tell. So, John, you better go ahead and get your next show and tell, because you are next on the show and tell list.
Oh, you took my hand down.
Yep.
Okay, here we go. Okay, this is, hang on, I'm going to have to share screen, folks. One moment. Okay, hang on a moment. All right, so here we go, sharing screen. I'm sure you're familiar with this ongoing project of our group.
Yay!
We have fenders glued to body. So this is, I just thought I'd show you the progress so far, because last time it was still in pieces and I kind of put it together to show you, but now we are actually, I bonded the 2 pieces together. And now it's in need. I just wanted to show it before I start puttying and sanding and making the windows the correct size and so forth. But just to show you that it actually went together fairly well.
Nice.
And so you can see there's a little bit of goop here. I'll get rid of that. That's just.
That's looking good.
But yeah, I mean, Greg, you're gonna have your car, I think, hopefully before Christmas.
Well, that would be a heck of a Christmas present.
Yeah, and I don't know what I really love. I'm sorry, I really had to do this, but I had to open up those vents. Can you see the shadow there? Doesn't that look cool?
Oh, nice. Yeah, you should be able to zoom in on that. That's cool.
So the vents are really there.
Nice.
There's a better shot. But they're open, so you'll be able to see the wheels if you have them turning and so forth. And who knows? Maybe we should ask if Chris Walker ever shows up if there's an actual aerodynamic effect.
Cooling.
Exactly. There you go. There you can really see that they're opened up, and then
tough crowd today.
So there you go. And that's the way that, we'll mold them like that for you too. No problem.
Amazing.
Why is it in the 1960s, the slot car guys, or the late 60s, the slot car 124 scale guys used to cut big holes in the top of the wheel arches at the front of the car.
Really?
They were convinced that it worked. Yeah, if you go back and look at the stuff that Mike Morrissey and guys like that were running, in the 60s. And then in those days, they were still running like 4 seconds around a king track. They had these big rectangular slots cut on top, above the front and rear wheels.
Really?
Yep, they felt that it helped get the air out from under the car.
Cool. Well, part of this, again, the way I started to sort of build some confidence with this project was I took a Strombecker RSK, and the rear wheel wells are really wrong. And I grafted on some rear wheel wells from one of my 356s just to sort of get a little bit of confidence. And actually, this might turn out to be a half decent project as well. So the projects never end. There you go. And that's the now. I'm going to stop sharing, but I just want to show you that this is actually legit. So I brought the body with me. Okay, and here it is.
Nice.
So it's coming along quite. So it actually is stuck together. That was no, no Photoshop. It was actual super glue, not Photoshop.
I have all the confidence in your abilities. I'm not worried at all.
Well, can I interest you in some land?
Yeah, I'm in the market. Well, thank you very much for sharing that. I love seeing the progress on that.
What's the progress, John? Excuse me, Greg. What's the progress on the chaparral?
I'm sorry. You know what? I've actually started carving the inside. I didn't take any photos, but how about I do that for next week and not be as A-type of a personality as I usually am?
Oh, that'd be great.
You know, it's a work in progress, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But again, it's from a priority perspective. I've been trying to. The challenge with Greg's project is that they're two dissimilar types of plastic. Like that Scalextric's body was sort of like a Tupperware-ish kind of bendy kind of plastic, which is a bit of an advantage in that you could actually stretch it and move it. But the model kit, of course, is styrene. So adhering those two, that's a challenge. And then it only has to survive one mold. So, but yeah, so that took a little more time. But the 2G is fairly straightforward. It's coming along. But I will take photos and show that next week. I'm sorry.
Great. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
I was just going to say, does anybody else have any questions for John on his projects before we move on to our next show and tell? So it looks like Dennis got his out of the way, so we'll move on to Mr. Rose. I think he's got something interesting for us to see, something that we don't normally see in this chat. So take it away, Jim.
It's telling me that the host has disabled participant screen sharing.
My bad. I forgot to turn that on for security reasons. Now you should be able to do it. Awesome.
Okay, let's see if I can find this. Should be there. There we go. Come up.
Good to go.
Just recently, Jerry Schmoyer at OS3 has created a brand new, I call it a 21st century T-Jet. He's asked me not to call it a T-Jet, but it kind of is. But it's a new pancake motor car. And I asked Greg about this the other day. I don't know if anybody is interested in HO cars or not, but this is something that to me is really special. It's new, it's exciting. I really think it's going to advance the sport in HO racing. One of the biggest issues with HO fray racing and T-Jets in general is the rear axle, and getting the gear mesh is just a pain in the ass. If you've ever done it, you know. So this has eliminated that problem, and one other made it a little bit easier. You have a snap-in axle, just like you do in any of the current magnet cars or any of the contemporary HO cars. You also have a snap-in guide pin, so you can run these cars without a body attached. You don't have to glue the guide pin in or anything else. So two, in my opinion, huge advances over anything else on the market in terms of pancake motor cars. And personally, and a lot of people I know and a lot of people in our group love pancake motor cars because they're not blinding fast. You have to drive them. They slide. And to me, they're just a lot more fun to race. So I think this will bring a lot more people into that genre of HO racing. Because they snap in, there's two crown gears. There's a 15 tooth and a 19 tooth. The arrow there, it may be hard to see on the screen, but the crown gears are actually marked 5 or 9, so they're pretty easy to distinguish. They're easy to see too because the teeth are so different. Or you could set them up with the 15 tooth in orange and the 19 tooth in red or whatever, because there's 10 different colors of gears and gears and wheels and such. It's typical Aurora type powertrain, 16.5 ohm armature, which is roughly equivalent to what we run in the Fray now. He is using a molded magnet as opposed to a ceramic magnet, but the strength is such that it's equivalent roughly to a AFX car. So these are not super high power magnets, but they're made to be easy. They're pre-shimmed. I didn't take a picture of it with the magnet out, but they actually have a shim on the back, so they're pre-shimmed. And there's 4 different additional armatures available if you want to go really fast with a drag arm, or slow them down for beginning drivers or smaller tracks and that type of thing. Nothing's happening here. There we go. The tires and wheels, fronts are O-ring, rears are slip-ons. You can see there in the tire that there's actually a chamfer in the tire. So when you press it up against the wheel, the tire stays flat on the contact patch. So what's amazes me about this project is so many of these little things that he's thought of doing. It's a plastic gear train. When you fire this up and spin it up on a dyno, this is the most quiet T-Jet style car, other than an all-out Fray car that has $24 set of gears in it, billet cut. This is the most quiet, efficient drivetrain I've ever seen in a ready-to-run car. These cars cost $27, so they're right in the ballpark with everything else.
Wow.
The gear plate has been redesigned pretty much from an original Aurora. So you can see on the left, he's cut down the sides. On the back, it's now rounded instead of sticking out. So it's much, much easier to get bodies down nice and low. You're never going to get bodies super low on a T-Jet because the car is big. But it allows you to lower the bodies. You can see in the background, the Corvette actually looks pretty good. It's extremely low. Even with those 350, 340, 352 tires on it, the axle is raised more like an AFX car. So you can see on the left, that's an original T-Jet. And on the right, it's on a piece of AFX track. So it's right down on the ground. And we ran them last night for the first time in an IROC. They handle extremely well. Here's another thing, just a little thing that he's done to make life easier for us. There is an access point or a recess on 3 different places in the chassis to be able to easily pop out the idler gear, the gear clamp, and the magnets. So these little things, back to the gear train just really quickly, you see the pinion gear on that top left photo. He's changed the ratio. The overall ratio is roughly the same, but he's changed the individual gears. So now the pinion gear on the armature and the pinion gear on the crown gear, which you don't see in this picture, they're the same gear. They're both 11 tooth. So again, just a little thing that will make life easier for maintenance and for, obviously it made it much easier for him not to have to mold an extra gear. So that's it. They're really nice cars. They work really well with hard bodies, relatively inexpensive. And in the video that I put out, I think this really sets the bar or resets the bar for what a good pancake motor car can be. This doesn't in any way replace Fray cars. These will never be legal for the Fray racing because of some of the features like the snap-in axles and so forth. But for people that want to run pancake style T-Jet cars, these just set the bar to a new level. So that's it. They're available now. They just hit the market, or his website just went up on Saturday, and he's just been inundated. Just to give you an idea, I put a video on my YouTube channel. I usually get about 400 or 500 hits on a video. This video, I got 1,200 hits the first day.
Nice.
So it was mind-boggling to me. So I've been working with Jerry Schmoyer from OS3 on and off, so because he's a good guy. He makes a great HO controller, but these cars are they're mind-boggling. And to look at those of you that are modelers and do this kind of stuff, to see how much effort went into this car, not let alone money, I just applaud him and others too for doing this thing. So that's the TFX.
That looks fantastic. And Can you, when you have a second, can you drop a link to his website into the chat so that I can be sure and put that in the video description so that people can visit that? The price point alone, just, I expected, $50 for that. I mean, I realize it's not a fray car, with all the tuning and
Not $250 either.
yeah, exactly. It's not that expensive, but it's like, I was going to ask, would that be free legal? Obviously, for so many reasons, no. But does it kind of give somebody who's interested in not necessarily just driving off to the fray and participating in the fray, but wants to kind of step up from, Johnny Lightning and AFX and their old Thunderjets and stuff like that? Kind of
the Auto World cars have their place in the market, but everybody knows they're not very good. The chassis are not very good. They run fine. This just sets a new level for what a car can run like, and with the Auto World bodies on it, because that's their forte. Their bodies are some of their, they've got a whole Trans Am set. I would love to put together an IROC Trans Am set with these chassis under them.
So the other manufacturers' bodies will fit on this chassis?
Virtually, I haven't found one that won't fit, but anything that'll fit on a T-Jet will fit on this.
Okay.
In fact, I know you went to the Coral this year, so can we expect to see you at the fray?
No. The Coral was a very unique situation because I was also there for the digital thing that he was putting together. So
I come down. Our team is full, unfortunately, but you can always get on a team, and I'll get your cars.
Well, I did bring home a nice car that Charlie put together from Coral. I've got a good car, but it's not the car that's going to slow me down. It's my finger that's going
to. If my car had a better driver, the last fray, which we missed last year, but the last fray, TQ qualifying is one single lap, but it's 3 laps combined. So you start, you run 3 laps, and that's your time. So your time is not like a 6-second lap; it's like an 18-second lap, and you only get one shot at it now at the fray. So you get one shot at 3 consecutive laps. If you come off, your time is very high. But just to toot my own horn very quickly, I missed TQ by 100th of a second. Over 3 hours.
So why are you saying, do you need a better driver? Obviously, you're a good.
Well, I qualified good.
Okay.
And I qualified third. It was literally 9,000 between me and TQ. So 100th would have maybe TQ, but there was a person in between us. So I was third, 100th back. So if you've never been to the fray, HO racers, there's 10 tracks, there's about 90 drivers. It's just
crazy.
It's amazing. Yeah. It's
I've seen pictures and a few videos of the frays, and yeah, that's not something I normally would do on purpose. But if you were in the area at the time, I would probably say hi to people and watch it in person. And
it's very intimidating the first time you go because there's 10 tracks, there's 60 lanes to learn.
I mean, I was enough intimidated by the Coral. Talk about being out of my.
Black, we were intimidated by it. We all have that, but yeah.
Well, thank you again for the presentation. Does anybody else have any questions for Jim on the new HO chassis before we move on? Hearing none, let's go to Henry. He's got his hands up. What you got for us today, Henry? Let's try to get you unmuted there. You need to click that button.
Yeah.
There you go.
I had first I have to excuse me for my English because I'm Dutch speaking, so I have to look for words every time.
You're fine.
It's club news and something I built. Yesterday we had our first a match, 40 people, and we drove the American V8. And normally the quickest car are the Mustangs. Those are the 80% of the field. But last year, and I'm just riding for 3 years now, I wanted to do something different. So I came up with the Revel.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, that's a lot bigger. And I have to excuse me for the numbers on it, but that's the rules. We have to do 3 numbers on it. And I qualified 5th with this one, and yeah, it's a hell of a car. It drove wonderful. And then came the race, and I wanted to clean the tires, and it slipped out of my hand.
Oh.
And that was the end of the car. And then it's the hook to John, because this is the way I did it now with foam and plastic. And yeah, do you know another solution to get it correctly on the chassis? Because it's very fragile. I hope foam give me some more play. But yeah, if I drop them, they're all 4 were gone.
Do you think you need the suspension there, Henri, or?
I have to hook them up with the chassis some way.
Yeah. You know what?
Because you use the chassis and there are 4 holes in it.
Have you ever thought of using the side rather than the front and the back of the car?
Yeah, I thought at the like they do the 124 scale.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Yeah. Because for example, that's what I've done with a lot of the cars, like the Porsche 356 that I cast. The mounting is on the sides rather than at the front or the back, and it seems to work quite well.
And it's homemade, or can you buy that?
Well, no, I cast it, molded it right into the casting, so the posts are right there. But you can do the same thing with either square or round styrene pieces, and you adhere it to the side of the body of the of your T-bird in some way, shape, or form. You may have to fill it in a little bit so that it's flush, but that might be a better way of mounting your car.
Can you put later on some pictures of
I can do that for you. Yeah, I can do that for you right now, sir. One moment, caller. Hang on a minute.
I think that what you've got there is not a bad idea. You maybe the foam that you use has got to be firmer or more dense. If the foam itself is quite soft, then it may break quite easily. But if it's a denser foam, that might work. And then you just got to check that you use the right kind of adhesive. Maybe I would use an epoxy rather than a
Yeah, I did the 2 components.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's the foam is going to be a little bit harder through the glue. So
yeah, I thought that was a pretty good idea.
Yeah, well, whenever you're ready, I can show you a picture of what I mean in the 356s I've done. I'll share screen if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Okay, thank you. So I don't know if you can see right here where I'm gonna. But you see, there's a block here, and you can actually put the styrene block longitudinally rather than vertically, and that way it gives you a lot more breadth and keeps the weight down low. And I've actually cast that right into the body. Here's another shot that you can see it here. Oops, sorry, my apologies here. There you go. See, and all that really was a piece of square evergreen styrene when I was making the mold.
Yeah.
And that allows you to, you can drill whatever you want. You can use a self-tapping screw. You can use an insert with a screw, whatever you choose to use. And then if you want to cushion it, you can actually cushion on the bottom versus, what you're doing now on the top.
Yeah, with a foam. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But this actually works really quite well.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I hope that helps.
Yeah, I have to learn a lot.
And honestly, it was my daughter who taught me that.
Great, thank you.
Anything else?
No, and then I have to replace another car because it didn't drive very well. And I took this one in the 3rd lane, and after 2 meters, I hit a screw, so the flag was gone. So my evening was always gone.
Oh no!
And that was the first race of this year.
Oh no!
Good try.
You can only go. You only get better from here, right?
Yeah, but I was very proud of the Ford Thunderbird. It drove fantastically.
It looks great. I'm sure you'll get that figured out. Do any of the hands have additional help for Henry? Alan, go ahead. Need to unmute. There you go.
Yeah, I'm unmuted. I'm unmuted. Henry, there's something you can use for body posts, and this thing is these are spoke reflectors. Children have these on their bikes. You can buy these a bag full for €5. A bag full, dead cheap, and they work. They work just right. You can put them inside. There you can see I've done this one. This is a TL7 project.
Yeah.
Get them in place with super glue, and then put lots of epoxy resin around the side, and you'll find that those just work fine. I know they're a cheap, cheerful solution, and they just work just right. So, you know, if you find those, try that.
How did you keep that from just opening up? Because I see that it's a C profile. How do you keep it from just opening up when you put a screw in?
Well, they seem to be ideally sized for slotted an NSR
screws.
Collared
Oh
screw.
yeah, I see it. There is a crucifix in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they don't.
So it's really not a problem. It works just fine. But you know, and if it was a bit too wide, then you could put a bit of super glue in there or something. But I found these just to be perfect for those collared screws. And you know, that collared screws are just, you got to use them. They produce so much of an advantage in the handling of the car that, you know, using anything else just isn't. It's not sensible.
And how do you look at the center of the body then? Do you had a hole from the chassis, and then I have to look upwards where I have to replace that part.
What I do is I put the screw through the chassis into this, and then I cut it and I drop the body onto it. I cut it too long, I drop the body, then I cut it a bit more, drop the body until it sits where I need it to sit. And then I super glue it to the body at the point, because this is already fixed into the chassis with a screw.
Yeah, okay.
All of that. So, I mean, it's a technique I've used several times. The things are cheap, easy to use, and they work. But just remember, super glue to get the positioning, and then epoxy resin to make sure that the things are straight, true, and they're not going to fall out. Should be good.
Thank you, Al.
And the plastic of those clip-on things is has a little bit of give. They're like polypropylene, so they have a little bit of give, maybe?
They do have a little bit of give, just for fun. You know, why not? Let me just do this right now. You can see this bending. I'm going to bend this until it breaks.
I bet it'll just fold.
Look, it's already like this, right?
Yeah, so it's not going to break. It's just going to fold.
It's not going to fracture. It's fine, you know. But like I said, they're made in China. You can buy a bag full for €5 because they're meant to put 20 on each wheel of each spoke, you know, of a child cycle, and they've got reflect. You have to pull all the reflective nonsense off here because there's reflective tape, but you peel that off or not, depending what you want. But it's a good, cheap, easy solution to do body posts.
Can you put that source of where you find it in the chat?
Oh God, it was an eBay seller I got maybe 3 years ago, and I bought.
I mean, it's gonna be any, you know, just go to any store that sells a good amount of bike stuff for kids. You know, there's probably
Amazon.com.
Amazon for sure, eBay for sure. You know, just, you know, reflective spoke things for kids' bikes. You know, I'm sure that there'll be the same exact thing under 100 different brands and names, because they're just churning them out from China by the millions. I doubt they'll be hard to find, but yeah, they're not going to be in a slot stockist site for sure. Does anybody else have any suggestions for Henry? All right, so let's move on. Mike is on the top left corner. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I guess I am unmuted. I have a box.
Yay, Magnet Marshall.
Magnet Marshall.
Magnet Marshall.
Yeah. So
You're
it's
headed
been
for a world of
interesting
confusion.
to figure that out. So I just got it yesterday, so I haven't had a lot of time to look at it and figure out. But there's substantial amounts of difference in the magnets, as you said, and it's going to be fun to try and work them up to a standard and see what happens.
So I'll tell you what our club usually does is, you turn it on, you zero it out. If it's not zero, we usually put the car on its side, off to the side of the bar, so that it's just the weight of the car.
Mm-hmm.
And then we zero that out, so that then we take the car off, it goes negative.
Mm-hmm.
Put the car down on so it's measuring the magnet, so that way you're not having to do any math.
Any math.
Yeah, just subtract the car's weight before you put it down, and then you see just what the magnet pull is. And remember, of course, that the magnet is not only the traction magnet, but also the motor. Depending on the motor, that might only be a few grams, but it could also be 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 grams, depending on the motor.
Actually, the ones that I've tried with no magnets in them at all have been 40 to 50. So it's been substantial amounts of downforce there.
Do you remember off the top of your head what kind of motors those were?
No. I just started playing with it, so I just one was a Piranha, I'm sure, and a couple of NSRs, but they were all in that 50-gram range.
Mike, I hope you plan on walking in your club and saying there's a new Marshall in town.
But bump.
That's awesome. Yes, that was a good one, Don. Yeah, do that for sure, Mike, for sure. All right, I look forward to what you discover, what you change, if anything. There's nothing, you don't have to change anything. You just put it on the shelf and leave it for a future date, obviously. But yeah, I look forward to hearing.
Yeah. Well, this is into Club Corner, but on Monday I had spent most of a couple days working on the other guys' cars that they had given up on, and another race day that two of us finished within one lap or less, and the other one finished 2 laps down. It was like really, really close. And I said, I got to either get my game up or start letting you guys do your own stuff.
Yeah, I'll have a little story for Club Corner too. So rather than going off on another tangent, we still got more show and tell. Dewan, what do you got for us today?
Okay, I just started a screen share. I don't know if you can see it.
I see a file folder full of files.
Oh, it didn't come up. Okay, let's do that.
If you loaded your picture already, then you need to share the picture.
Yeah, that's what I thought I did. Okay, that didn't do it, huh?
Yeah, go ahead and try again.
Okay, let's do that one more time. Screen share.
Nice picture of a pool.
Yeah, I decided to go. Actually, my office is in my. I have a guest bedroom that duels as my office. So I have a guest here, so I have to step outside. Didn't want to do it in my, this presentation folder. Oh, there it is.
Okay, Revell Atlantica Home Raceway.
Yes, I found a little jewel.
Oh man, is that ever gorgeous?
That's the box. I don't know if you can really see that. That is the box.
That went straight from the store into somebody's attic or something, because
exactly where they found it, in an attic, inside of another box.
So you got like the ultimate barn find for slot cars.
You can't believe this how good that looks.
Oh. Okay, I'm sorry.
Look at the inside of this.
Not worthy.
I didn't mean to do this, but I had to. But you can't just pass up something like this. Someone that appreciates this needs to acquire it.
Dewan, if you did pass on it, you'd have to deal with us. You know that.
The cars have been run at best one time in their entire history.
Oh my! I don't, if at all. Oh, the sticker's still on the motor.
It's like a time capsule.
Yeah, time capsule. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those
My
are gorgeous.
Look at the braids.
Braids, yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's how you can tell whether they've been running. Those ones have not
Right.
been run very much at all.
Yes, yes, yes. So someone got this for Christmas, did it on Christmas Day, and tucked it away and never came back for 60 years or 50, 55 years or whatever.
Well, listen, right now, find out what else that kid has.
Yeah. By the end of Christmas Day, my slot cars were not working anymore because I'd run the braids right through.
You're gonna make it. Hold on. You're gonna make one of those for yourself, right?
Oh yes, absolutely, absolutely, definitely going to be on my track. But that was my bargain. That was my bargain buy, and this was the one that I passed up. Well, I haven't. It's still ongoing, so I can't quite say I passed it up. But this one that I'm passing up.
Oh, that's the K and B, right? That's the K and B.
It is.
That has the kangaroo chassis, doesn't it?
I know what it does have, but well, I can tell you this. I was trying to negotiate with the guy, but he refused to give up on the shipping cost.
Oh, what? What?
It better be insured.
And it's used. It's been used quite a bit. So anyway, that's that one. I do have one more show and tell. I have some questions on the next show and tell real quick. If I can, I think I can get to that folder in this. I think I can. Can I?
I think I can.
You can't change folders with the scroll, but you can just go to File, Open, and open another picture.
Yeah. Where do I go to File? Open here? No. Yeah. No. Okay. How do I go back one folder? It's actually in a subfolder in the same folder, but I can just stop here.
See all photos at the top. Top right, or top left, sorry.
Oh, okay. I just lost my mouse. There it goes.
You know, you could probably get a replica full-size Batmobile for that, you know.
Exactly. Okay. And let's go to, oops, that took me all the way back. That took me back, oh boy.
It might be easier than to close this.
Yeah, let me go ahead and close and bring it back up in the right folder. 1 second. Okay.
While you're doing that, Dewan, you know, as good as Monogram was at marketing with those illustrations for their sets, the photography for Revell was just stunning.
Yeah, and it looks like that's that guy's selling point, is that it comes with a lot of the stuff, you know.
Well, I got it for 190 bucks.
Oh, well,
To me, that's a bargain.
Oh, it is. Are you kidding?
Yeah. Well,
Which thing did you get for 190 bucks? The set?
The Revell set, yeah.
Yes.
Those cars alone are that.
Exactly.
Not know what they were selling.
Okay, one, I'm not finding my folder. Why is that the case?
Because we're distracting you, that's why.
Yeah. Well, in short, I found some resin, somebody selling some resin bodies, 3D printed bodies of two cars that I really want. And I didn't know, I want to get some counseling, I guess, on that. Now we can take it offline if it's an issue. I can't see.
Or why don't we can come back to you when you find the photos? How's that sound?
Yeah, I have the folder open here.
Okay, see, there you go.
If I can just do this way again.
Yeah, we're not rushed.
Man, if this was broadcast TV, this would cost a fortune.
Okay, so that my image is open. So let me go back to share folder one more time. And find that image. So frustrating. And I'm an IT expert. This is so frustrating.
No, we knew that. That's why it was taking you so long. Billable hours.
As an IT expert, you should always know that you should never let a computer know that you're in a hurry.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know if you can see this or not.
Yeah, for sure.
4 cars on your track.
4 cars on my track. Okay, well that's in the right folder, so I should be able to navigate from this then. I think. Should allow me to navigate. Well, anyway, this is one of my, I'm more into really vintage and nostalgic type of things. And one of the reasons why I decided on the Batman track was I have a fraternity that I belong to, and there's four of us, and we were called the International Warlords. One of my guys on the fraternity was Batman, and I'm Superman, alias Clark. And then we have Aquaman, and then the third one is actually Captain America and Aquaman. So I don't have Aquaman there yet. So these are little fantasy cars that we built up outside of the Batmobile. But that's what my ultimate race is going to be. But I'm trying to see if I can navigate to.
It looks like you're looking at a chat rather than a folder.
That's what I'm doing. Okay, well that's not going to work then. Okay, well, I was trying to get to the resin body. It was in the same folder.
It looks like you can show us whatever is in that chat. So,
I'll never get tired of seeing the pictures of those cars and the track.
Wow, they're really nice.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't have the resin body that's showing up in here in this window. Okay, well, and my question was if I get them. One is of a Z28, 1979 Z28, which is the car that I own. And I still own it. I'm going to make that as one of my pet projects of restoring the one-to-one. But I want to have a slot car of the exact car. And the other one is a couple of cars that I also owned in the past. One is a BMW convertible, and then that's the only two cars that I found. I also want to find. I've never found anybody having a model of a LeBaron convertible, but that's what I also would like to get as well. But I was just trying to get some counsel on what will I be receiving and how to. That's why I was taking notice of the mounts, because I was planning on trying to take those, and if I needed to make some type of mounts and things like that to get them under the slot car. And they're all 124 scale. That's what my preference is. I do 132, just play around with stuff, but 124 is my preference, and that's why I have those other cars. That's it. That's all my share was today.
What does anybody
I would think that 124 scale resin cars are not going to have any kind of body mounts at all inside them.
That's what I was thinking as well. That's why I was asked. That's why I had an interest in those body mounts that he was installing in his car. So, and I saw, Dennis, that you're a friend of the person that I'm purchasing from. He's from France. The 3D printing company, and so I figured you'd have some insight possibly if you had some dealing with it. I just don't know what I'm going to be expecting and what needs to be added to it, etc. Things like that.
Yeah,
so we can do that offline.
If they're resin castings rather than 3D prints, they're going to probably be a little rough. And I think most of the stuff coming from France is probably still a resin casting rather than a print. So probably going to have to do a little bit of grinding out on the inside, and opening up the windows, and maybe even manufacturing your own glass. I'm not sure what you're going to get.
Like it didn't come with the glass. It didn't look like it came with windshields or anything like that. It looks like it's just the rest.
So you're going to have to. Yeah, there's a lot of ways of doing that. I mean, everything from just having flat, clear Lexan or butyrate sheet to grabbing a 2-liter Coca-Cola bottle and finding the piece of it that has the right curve to fit what you're trying to do. Sometimes for headlight covers and things like that, you can find little bits at the bottom of the bottle where it have all those fancy little curves. Somewhere in there, you might find a piece that just has the right curvature for you.
I've seen those.
What chassis are you going to use?
I was thinking about the standard KN. I'm sorry. Gosh darn it. The brass chassis.
The H&R.
H&R.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, that'll work. Yeah. That'll work.
That's just again for nostalgic purposes. So
it sounds good. Yeah, but I think prepare yourself for the fact that you're going to have a bit of work to do on those bodies.
And another tidbit, I picked up 4 of those Revell. Actually, I have 3 of them. I have one more to get. Those Revell on-off thumb racer thingies. And I was going to get 4 of those so I can make that one of my little nostalgic races that everybody has to have.
Oh, you mean the
Those
type
little
of controller I
buttons.
have
Yeah.
here?
the
Yes.
telephone buttons. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, you know what? They actually, if you once you get used to them, they're really, really good because you can use them with your, the 3 fingers of your hand. And the great thing is the brakes are immediate. As soon as you lift off, the brakes go on right away. I really enjoy using them, and everyone thinks I'm nuts, but that's
I was
besides
going to
the
make it a
point.
challenge race. Everybody using those controllers, so that's what.
Yeah.
Hey,
They
John,
they
not
actually work really
everybody
well.
thinks you're nuts. Some of us know you're nuts.
Well, that's true. There's no supposition involved. You're absolutely correct.
If you do that race, Dewan, definitely, put a camera on a,
Oh yeah,
get it on video, because that's going to be a hard.
absolutely.
All right. I look forward to hearing more about your resin body projects, and I'm sure you'll get lots and lots of help along the way from our favorite people. Brian has his electronic hand up. Brian, are you ready to do your show and tell or Q&A?
Actually, I just had some input for Dewan. I think Hornby's coming out with the 79 Z28 either later this year or early next quarter.
Those are 132s, and I've ordered 4 of them.
There you go. I didn't know 124 was the priority.
Yeah.
Those
are 132s, and I'm getting those for sure. And I'm gonna have them. I'm gonna change them to mimic my car as much as I possibly can. A couple of them. So thanks.
That's why you're part of the group. You buy in multiples. We love it.
Those look like really good cars. Dave Kennedy was showing them on the Slot Car News official channel. Yeah, they look great, and I'm sure they'll be nice to run with the other classic NASCARs. I'm not sure, what's a good word for old, but not old, right? They're not the classic NASCARs, but they're not
NASCARs. They're the Trans Am.
Oh, okay. Well, doesn't that? Okay.
The Camaro would hardly be a NASCAR, right?
It just the body shape and size is the same. So I was like,
yeah, I thought those were more IROC, weren't they? They were used in the IROC series as well. Yeah.
Let's call them IROC. That makes more sense. See how stupid I am about cars?
No.
I learn something new every day, which is awesome. I could have sworn I saw somebody else's hand up, but I guess not. So we will move on from show and tell. Chuck, there you go. I saw your hand up. What you got, Chuck?
Well, talking about those funny little controllers that Dewan got, there was a eBay sale and the guy had 3 of them, and it turns out that Dewan got 2 of them and I got 1, but the guy that was selling them made a mistake and he sent me all 3, and of course I didn't know who bought the other 2, and so talking with him, I said, okay, just give me the address and I'll just ship them directly from here to him. And when he popped up Dewan's address, I know this guy. That was really funny. So
that was, yeah, it was.
That is.
Now, Dewan, did you get them in the packaging or were they loose?
Oh, they were loose. Yeah, they were loose. Oh, that's
okay.
That's because there's a guy that's selling one with the packaging. He's trying to get those for $50, and there's another guy that's got his probably in worse condition than mine that's trying to sell his for $139 on eBay right now.
One word of caution with these types of controllers: the early ones are better than the later ones, and it's all in the composition of the plastic on the. I know too much about this. I know. It's all in the composition of the plastic of the handle. So the early ones had this really almost Bakelite plastic, very robust. The later ones, which actually have cooler packaging, I'll just show you here. And they came in like these funky 60s colors, right? But the problem is though, over time, because plastic never stops curing, it's always degassing. This stuff, when it starts to degas, it starts to warp and the contacts go off. So these are great to look at, terrible to use. It's what my wife refers to me as. And and these are the ones to race with. These are the ones that I use on my track, and they work just great.
Okay, I have 3 of those, and I have 1 translucent that I was planning on ordering.
You give that to the person you don't like.
Okay, your insight is just amazing. I tell you, it's astonishing.
Yeah, you know, really, I'm 80 years old, right? You know that.
That's why we keep him around. He's useful for those things.
And he's got all these things packaged up. I can't believe that. He's got them in mint condition. What is this?
Yeah, but my OCD is getting real good now. I'm getting really better at it. So.
Oh, we keep him around, but when the moon is full, we chain him to a tree.
And he knows where it is. That's amazing too.
That's where all the things are. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. OCD. Did I mention OCD? Did I mention that?
Once or twice.
Yeah. But John, you don't have OCD. You have CDO because the letters are in the right order.
All right, so John Weber has been showing off a car this whole time. I'm not sure if that's his background, but I'm going to just spotlight that real quick. John, is that a new car? Do you want to talk about that car, or are you just bragging? He must be just bragging. He's muted. In case he's trying to chalk John Mr. Weber, you're muted. But Le Mans miniatures?
It's the same as Nico had.
Yeah, just bragging. Thank you.
Great looking car. Thanks for showing. Anybody else got anything they want to show or tell before we move on to a topic or club corner? Seeing no virtual or real hands, I'm going to go ahead and declare club corner time. So before I forget that I had a story, I'll tell the story. Now I've forgotten what the story is, so I'll let Big Den go ahead with his. And once it triggers in my head, I'll tell my story. Go ahead, Big Den.
I was muted.
Yep, you were.
Okay. There we go. So, just a bit of self-indulgence to start off there. We had a get-together we actually had 10 guys turn up last Saturday for racing at Grumpy's Garage.
Nice.
Okay, so next one. And there's the man himself, KC, Kieran. He's just looking at the track before racing. They started off with Nascar. I didn't get there, until they'd finished the Nascar racing, but it was eight entries for that. Just another shot of the Nascars and the results. Whoever took the picture of that, but pretty close racing. Just a lap in it at the top of the results there. Moving on, the next race was the V8 muscle cars, and that's me midfield in the middle of the picture there in the little Pioneer Mustang. Just a shot of a couple of the guys close up.
Greg, it's blue and yellow, Greg.
I saw that. I was going to say I like that number 9 or number 6 or whatever it is.
Yeah. That used to be the Channel 9 logo here in Australia, that probably elsewhere in the world. That's just a picture of some of the guys that have already taken their cars away.
It's a nice looking track.
Yeah. I've got a little video at the end of the track. I'll see if I can get that up towards the end. This class is a bit interesting. A couple of the guys race at another track, which is about 60 k's away from Launceston, and the curiously for John Kitt, the guy that has the track is an expat Canadian, and I think he was originally from Toronto. And some of the guys that race out there race a lot of the cars with brass chassis, so you can see a little bit of a difference in the scores. Mark, who was the top runner there, and was running a car with a brass chassis, so it's got a bit of an advantage. So moving right along to our DTM field. Now, not everyone had a DTM, so a couple of the guys ran their Group 5, the 21 car at the bottom. That's blue and dark yellow, orange.
Well, Big Den, don't hesitate to kick him right in the brass, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And well, again, Mark ran a car this was a a slotted car with a slab of brass underneath it, which again made it quite over competitive. And as you'll probably see in the results, because I drive like a girl, I had to get the Ellen Law silver Mercedes there. So that's me again, midfield. That's just the DTM cars. There's the 2 Group 5s that were in the race. And scores again. Mark way out in front with the with his brass chassis car. Then when we got down to the pure DM cars, just a lap sort of thing there. So they're fairly close. That's the son of one of the guys. That's Dad, and that's Alex, the boy wonder as we call him at the back there. About 14. He's not our youngest racer though, so I'll just turn that off. I'll just stop that share and see if I can grab the other one.
Do you have a lot of youngsters participating?
No, only a couple, John, unless you include me as one of the youngsters. Sorry,
I should have specified chronologically versus.
Against emotionally, look, I'll try and get it. I'll try and get it up later on. I won't go too far. Just a couple of points from what some of the others have. Here's a couple of shares I can do. When Henry had his car up there earlier on, the Thunderbird he had reminded me a lot of the Gunsy Sangyo Thunderbird. It looked almost.
Yeah, actually, they're the same kit. Revell remarketed the Sanjos in North America. Yeah, it's the same kit.
Yeah. There it was.
You can build it. You can build it 3 ways.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I've actually got a couple of those. I haven't got them, 3 feet from me like John Kitt would have if he was doing this. But it also after that, I've actually got a couple of the Sunliners or Skyliners, which I've had repainted. So I'll try and dig them out for next week and just show them.
And a lot of those cars were raced as stock cars back in the day.
Yeah, that's right. And I've actually got some decals from our local guy Pato. So I'll just have a look out here. Yeah, no. Oh yeah. The actual the Thunderbird, the Gunsy one that I ran some years ago. I actually used one of the little Japanese flat pan hit chassis with a 16D underneath it. I've still got that chassis somewhere, but it's not sort of going anymore. So I just got myself a sticky note here to remind me of these little things as I go along. So yeah, well that'll do me for today. So we'll have another 3 weeks. We'll have another 3 different classes at Grumpy's. So now,
what kind of racing rules do you guys do? Like you do round robin, sprints or?
It's the one where essentially there's 3 different guys on 3-minute heats. So if the 3 guys start, there's going to be a different 3 next time. And so it is possible that there'll be some guys you don't race against in a 9 or 10 man field, but you'd probably on average race against say 5 or 6 different guys in the round robin, depending on how the cards fall. So
and everybody gets there when you crash, you put the cars right back on.
Yeah, we have to use your terminology over there. We have turn marshals.
Turn marshals.
When I get organised with another screen share with a little video, I'll come back to that. But I'll let to save delaying the process. Can you unshare me there? Or?
Yep, I already did.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
All right. Thanks for sharing, Big Den. Let's go to Little Den. What you got there, Dennis?
Okay. I guess I said something about it last week that we were going to run the Revo slot proxy race cars. And so I did put up the link. I don't know if anybody watched the video, but it was pretty good. I have a couple of just a couple of photos and a short video that I can put up, I guess.
Please.
Where did it go? Where did it go?
I didn't do it.
Yeah, no, you didn't. But hang on, let me just check. Oh, that's why. That's why. All right. I'll do that again. Come on. Share screen. Share screen. And I want that one. There we go. Okay, so I had just 3 drivers. Phil Nyland at the end, Mil Conroy in the middle, Gary Donahoe at the end. Drove all 20 cars on each one on one lane. And they did a pretty good job of that. See if this video will load. Shouldn't take too long to load. Just a little bit that I took while I was sitting behind the race control, just giving you a good show. There's a red car and a blue car right at the top of the picture there that as soon as the video starts, you'll see. It was a really close race between the two. Come on. Waiting for it to load. Patience, please.
I didn't know you worked in IT, Dennis.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, there we go.
So these were all standard. They're all Revo slot cars with Revo slot motors and tires and everything. But the guys who did the tuning did a pretty good job because the cars were really quick and that close. We had a lot of the races that were easily that close all the way through.
Did any of the? Did it seem like any of the models, like Ferrari versus Viper versus Marcos and stuff, tended to be better, or was it all?
When you look at the results, there were 3 Vipers in the top 3.
Okay.
If you looked at the top 10, there were some Supras and maybe 1 Porsche and 1 Ferrari F40. It was difficult to tell whether that was because they were the better car or just because the entrant was a better tuner.
Yeah.
For example, the guy whose car won, this number 88, he prepared a Porsche as well, and it finished in the top 10. So he obviously knew what he was doing. But yeah, it was fun. Anyway, so just a short report on that race.
And Dennis, has that lead car 88 got a different size and shape wing to the other two?
No.
Just the color?
It might actually. Maybe you used a different wing. I'd have to check that. It's possible. Yeah. Now that I look at it,
it might also be the angle of the photo.
No, it is. No, it is a different wing because it doesn't have that forward curve on it.
Oh yeah.
So he used the wing from something else.
Naughty boy.
I'm sure that was part of the rules.
I'm sure it was allowed as long as there is a wing, right? Probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there were a couple of other cars that were like that, and there were 1 or 2 cars where the guys had actually used a body from a different. Actually, only one where they used a different manufacturer's body because the rules actually gave bonus points to people who used a particular set of. They'd made up the rule makers had made up a list of a number of different bodies that you could use, and you picked up bonus points for using one of those rather than a Revo slot body. So one guy had put a Fly Venturi onto the top of a Viper chassis, and it ran okay. It didn't run any better or any worse than any of the other cars. Yeah,
I witnessed part of it. It was pretty entertaining. This was, you were just one of the host tracks that was part of the circuit?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, this was round 5, and there will be, I think, 10 rounds. So from here, Now that my round is done, we'll have one more round in Southern California at my friend Phil's track or at Electric Dreams, one of the two. I haven't decided yet. And then the cars will go on from there to Oregon. And there'll be a couple of rounds there. And I'm not sure where they finish up, maybe in Washington.
I've gotten an interest in those Proxies.
There's a massive amount of interest in them. A lot of guys who are, who race on their own and who like to build and enter are doing it. There's a number of different proxies running at the moment.
Dennis, I'm looking at a Home Racing World review, and it has that different wing that the winning car has on it. So it looks like it was a production mid-run change or something.
Oh, okay. So there may well be a different version of the Revo that has that wing. Okay. Yeah, I know all of mine have just a straight wing, but that's fine. Thanks, Jim.
Good to know. What you got, Henry? You're still muted.
Yeah.
There you go.
I was last week by Zwanenburg. It's around the corner, and we drove. He's an importer of Riverslot, and he had a guy who runs all the clubs in the Netherlands, and he goes with 10 or 12 cars, and the car stays on the lane, and then you change the lanes. So and they go around all of the Netherlands, all the clubs, so that everybody can be introduced with Riverslot. So that's a very good initiative, and yeah, they drive wonderful. And yeah, the question, which are the quickest one or the best one? I've got also the Ferrari, and yeah, it's all about tire management. Also driving like the tire management, because this one is heavier, and and the tires go worse even faster than. So it's like nice driving. How do you call that? Don't slip around. Always stay at the track, and it's time management all about. And I've got some news from the importer, because all the BRMs are going to be 132 scale, made by Riverslot.
Riverslot is going to go to a line of 132nd scale BRMs.
Yeah, all the BRMs that are on the market now, they're going to be a type of Riverslot.
Nice.
So that's wonderful news, I think, because they're beautiful cars.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, they're great cars. You know, I've been buying every blue and yellow one that's come out pretty much, and of course they're helping me spend my money by coming out with lots of blue and yellow Riverslot cars. So now I have 4 different models of Riverslot cars that are blue and yellow. You know, I've got the F40, I've got a Marcos, I've got a Viper, I've got my white kit that was painted blue and yellow of the Porsche.
Yeah.
They all run great. They just need a little bit of love on the tires to make everything nice and round and smooth, which is something that I'm being challenged by, because the F40 that I got, I tried to true the rear tires, and they gummed up on me a lot quicker than I'm used to. So I'm having
it's a problem. I haven't worked out a good solution to it yet either.
Yeah,
you just got to do it very slowly and very carefully.
Yeah, I asked for a little bit of help on that on Slot Forum, and some of the guys there suggested, going slow and very low pressure, but also, wet sanding, keeping them wet with water, or I forget what the other suggestion was. I think he said ethanol, but I assume that's just isopropyl alcohol or something like that. One of them said lighter fluid, and I'm afraid to use lighter fluid because that'll just soften it up even more. So I'm not sure I want to go down that road. But
yeah, I don't know that I would do that. I do use a bit of lighter fluid towards the end of the grind, but not really to try and cut them. You might try something like Simple Green as well. I used to try that on some of the more gummy NSR tires. What I found, though, with this Proxy on my track anyway, was that the guys that used the aftermarket softer tires that are available from Riverslot for their cars,
there are more.
those tires did not work on this track. The harder shore tires were much better. You could see by the time that when I received the cars that on some of the cars the rear tires had a lot of scuffing marks on them. So I'm not sure what the previous track surface was like before they got to me, but the softer tires had worn a lot, and they had a very scuffed and rough surface, and they did not hook up on my track at all. The guys who used the stock tire and prepared it carefully were in much better shape.
I used Shore 25 the last time. Normally in a race they have to clean the tires in the race because we have to do it in racing time. So and then and I didn't have to do it nothing. It doesn't pick up any graining, but the grip. I went to Zwanenburg and they had cleaned up their track and had no grip. And when I went back to my own slipstream, I had a lot of track. So yeah, it depends on the track you're driving.
Yeah, when I just put it on my track, it actually hooked up fairly well. It's just a little bit of rattly and untrue tires. So I think once I get them nice and smooth and round, they'll be great, at least on my plastic sport track. So, but yeah, Brian, did you have some suggestions for me on that topic?
No, I did have show and tell when you're finished.
Okay, since I'm done with that, yeah, go ahead and do your show and tell.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about this. Our local hobby shop had customer appreciation weekend, so they were knocking 15% off. All right, what's going on here? Share. So I picked up the new Pantera. Kind of an old school chassis by them, as they're using the old pod system on the back again. Car runs okay.
Look at the size of those tires.
Yeah, the Paul gauge for these are 21-13 8s. The ridge in the middle of that tire is 8 millimeters wide.
Wow.
This runs about the same as their newer Mustangs did. You know, the HRW Mustang and that 55 they came out with. So it's just a beautiful car. Liked it. I don't know what possessed me to get this. I don't own any other stock cars other than the car was gorgeous.
It's a Dynoco livery.
Yeah, there you go. I haven't taken it out of the box yet because I'm still deciding whether or not I'm going to take it back and swap it out for one of the new Capris. But
well, maybe someone who's into blue and yellow might be interested in it.
No, I've raced those cars. We call them scooper birds because one of the guys has a set of 6 that he digitized for Scalextric Digital, and when we race those, you never want to be rear-ended because all they do is just that front nose just scoops right under the rear end, and they just scoop every other car off the track. So it's all about staying out of the way of anybody behind you.
I can top that. My Tomahawk will literally go underneath the car, and the car goes underneath could probably literally reslot itself.
But now you're showing me your fancy your resto mod there in blue and yellow.
Well, this was a test for a color scheme. I was actually wet sanding this body and dropped it and cracked it right across the nose right here.
So it deserved to be blue and yellow, is what you're saying? Thanks.
No, I was in the blue and yellow phase. I was wet sanding it prior to putting the yellow on it.
Okay.
I shoot the blue. I usually put some clear on there so my tape doesn't tear it off. And I dropped it. But,
well, sorry, Brian, I have to interrupt. You did a really, really good job on your livery there. That looks really great.
That does.
Thank you. But like I said, the Tomahawks here will literally go right underneath the car in front of it. I don't know if you can see how low that nose is.
Uh-huh.
And it will literally just go right underneath the car. Now the other one, I just shot the clear on this today. This is the first livery I plan on doing. It's this Laguna Blue.
Nice.
So they're in process. I am going to do one in blue. I'm going to do the second car in the blue and yellow. I do like it. It turned out really well.
Oh,
So-
that light blue, Brian, is brilliant. It's almost like a little Gordini or something.
Yeah, and I'll wet sand it, get it smooth, and then I'm going to tape it. I'm going to do the same scheme on that one, but I will probably do it in white.
Listen, can I ask you a question, Brian?
No.
Okay.
Sure. Go ahead.
Do you are you in need of any sort of 50s style GP driver heads? Because I would more than willing to be able to send you some just to put in those cars. They would look so fantastic.
Well, actually, I was planning on their resto mod, so I was planning on putting a full face Stig type driver in them.
Oh, no. Well, okay, that's up to you. But if you want like a 50s GP sort of driver's head, let me know.
I will, but not in the cards just yet. And the other thing is, I did order a second slotted SCP-2. Unfortunately, the guy I ordered it from takes 3 days to ship. So I ordered it on Monday, and it still haven't received any notification of it having been shipped. Some dump hole in the wall place up in the Pacific Northwest. I think the guy's name is Alan.
Alan something, yeah.
Something like that.
You know, he's like shipping everything himself, right? Everything that comes out of that store, he's packing and shipping himself.
He said right on the website, he typically takes 3 business days to ship. So,
yeah.
You know, I knew that going in. I was kind of surprised. He's the only guy I could find in the States who still had these things in stock. And I bought the last one from Slot Car Corner for $129. So when his was $139, I was like, damn, it's even going to cost me $10 more. So I jumped back to Slot Car Corner real quick just to see if he got more in stock. Still out of stock, but he raised his price to $169.
Wow.
On the website.
And
so I didn't feel,
and free shipping from Alan.
Yeah. Well, I think for Slot Car Corner it would be over $100.
Okay, cool.
Alan does anything free over 65. So yeah, of course it's going to come slow boat, you know, because he's going to pick the cheapest route, which is fine. It's just kind of frustrating when you order it, you know, you spend a few days and it's not even in the mail yet. But hey, when it gets here, it'll get here.
I think he sends priority. Usually when I get something from Al, you know, it's half an hour away from me, but it still gets shipped priority to me. So I don't know. Maybe it's just because it's a local thing. Like I know the post office won't allow some packages to be shipped cheap when they're local enough, so you have to do priority. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, and in some cases, the cheap stuff doesn't save you any money anyway. Sometimes, especially if he's using like, you know, if it fits, it ships type thing. You know, it might be cheaper. So new controller on the way and a few new cars.
It'll be nicely packed. The last Revo slot I got there was so much bubble wrap in there. I was like, another layer, and the box was cut like it was a hand cut box. It was not like a big box that he put a small thing. It was, He doesn't send improperly packed things because he's definitely the kind of guy that hates it. You know, when somebody ships a slot car that's going to come busted because it wasn't properly packed.
Yeah.
Like he'll complain to me about how they're packaged in the display cases. Like he'll open a display case just so that he can pack the car in the case properly if it's not already packed properly.
Yeah, collectors love when they do that. Speaking of Revo slot, I almost pulled the trigger on a Revo slot this weekend. I think he only had 3 Porsches left. They were on sale for $65 a piece, and then an additional 15% off.
What stopped you?
No magnet.
They come with magnets.
Revos do?
Yeah, you got to put them in, but they come with a magnet under the tray.
Interesting. I might have to rethink that.
You know, if you're short of magnets, there might be some people here that could donate some to you.
Right. I got a big old ball stuck to my fridge. Big Den's got a virtual hand up. What you got, Big Den?
I think I might be ready for that video now, Greg. So I'll just
All right.
try again with the share.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is just a little bit of a walk around the track. Yeah, might be a bit of buffering there, but it looks like my bandwidth might be. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then that's a routed track, is it?
It is, yeah. I've been racing at the place for over a year, and I didn't realise until last Saturday that it actually it actually lifts up to the roof.
Nice.
So he could just put it up there when it's not, if he's having a bit of a break. So yeah, I think I'll just have to get a proxy organised with Brian. He seems to be able to find all these marvelous bargains around the world. Add freight to Australia, though, it'd probably be about 5 times the price. Yeah. So talking about wrapping, I sent one of the SCX dragster kits over. I sold to a guy on eBay, and he asked me, could you make sure that it's packed securely so that it's not damaged, neither the box or the car's damaged in transit. When I got the feedback, he said, "Thanks for the bomb-proof packaging."
You asked for it, that's what you get, you know. I remember, Mike, you had mentioned that you had something for Club Corner. You want to tell a Club Corner story for us, Mike? Maybe it'll trigger my memory. You're muted. You're muted. There you go.
Thank you. Not much other than we had some really close racing again. And I've been setting up the other guys' cars. So it's been interesting. Noticing a lot of things like some of the Scalextrics things that had to be repaired. The Janetta LMPs, which we all three have been cracking the chassis at the rear. So I've been stealing some ideas from Chris and putting wire along the back just above the motor shaft at the rear was sort of a U-shaped bracket, which in the Janetta is interesting to get in because it's such close quarters there. So we had some problems with the body, but setting up the cars the way I like to drive them made them drive better, damn it. And not being that great myself, it put me in a little bit of peril, but I did do my share, except for one stop and go at the beginning, which cost me the race.
Just remember, Mike, no good deed goes unpunished.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah. And that did in fact trigger my memory with like it did the first time around. So on Monday was our first race of the Mr. Slot Car series that we're running now. Most everybody's running the Porsche 911 Evo because the McLarens that we had a couple of years ago ran a different motor configuration. So, but there was one guy who had a new McLaren that had the similar motor configuration. Anyways, mostly Porsche 911s, and you guys saw that wonderful blue and yellow one that my friend did the body for me. And I did everything, did kind of the basics. I had to trim the motor shaft because we were using the Scale Auto foam rubber tires, and that would have rubbed against the motor shaft. So we trimmed that off. And I did all that work to get the body to fit on. Turned out it was one of the wires pointing the wrong direction, and I desoldered it and replaced the wire and made it run around the motor and stuff. Even with all the wiring out of the way, the bottom of the interior still is pretty much right against the top of the chassis. And so there's very little, you can't really get any body float out of it without, having the body just up from the chassis. Don't get a whole lot of pod float, but I loosened them up so that they moved around and stuff. And I, put the wheels out as far as I could without them rubbing. And as far as I could tell, everything was running smoothly. The front, I trued and glued the fronts and coated the fronts. And, as far as I could tell, I was race ready, good to go. When I got to the track, I drove it around a bit and it seemed okay. And I tend to not like practicing a lot because I usually get overconfident and then drive too hard during the racing and come off more. So I don't practice. I should have this time around. But when we started the race, I kept having to turn up various knobs on my controllers because it seemed the car just didn't want to go until I gave it lots and lots of power. And, you know, I took it off the track and I kind of turned things and made sure there wasn't anything noticeably rubbing, and I couldn't feel it. And I'm like, you know, it's not running the way that it should. And I talked to Pat, and yeah, Iceman Pat, and Pat is the Pat that you know. Tim isn't racing with us. You know, he's doing other things these days. He's not racing with anybody these days. But I go and I show the car to Pat, and he looks at it, and I'm looking at the other cars and kind of turning their wheels and stuff, and they seem similar to what mine is doing. But, you know, Pat kind of does a little bit more and says, you know, it looks like maybe this one tire might be rubbing, right? And the body is kind of slightly tilted on the chassis. Everything's not super perfect because of all the interior touching and whatnot. But he moved the tire in a teeny little bit. And also, I think it was the rear axle. I had it fairly tight. And there was basically no side-to-side play at all. And you know you want a hair. But it didn't feel like it was slowing it down. But, you know, we moved that one tire in a little bit so that it wasn't definitely not rubbing, and we moved the other tire out just a teeny little bit so there was just enough play, and boom, the car was a rocket. and then as I'm pulling a foot on Pat as we're going down the main straight, he's like, yeah, I should not have helped Greg. I shouldn't have helped him. But, you know, he's the kind of guy that would rather, you know, win a race with you when your car is performing at its best. So, you know, that's just one of those things. You think your car is doing good, and then you put it up against other cars, and it's not doing as good, and then you get somebody who knows a little bit more about it, and they help you, and things are better. Love it. Anybody else got any Club Corner they want to share? Any future events they want to talk about? New projects, new products, questions? I know that. Go ahead, Dewan.
What were some of the practices that you attempted from last week's suggestions that helped you out?
So I did I took the interior out of the body and put it onto the chassis to see where it was hitting without the body in the way of me being able to see. And that conclusively showed me that the interior was hitting a different wire than I had suspected initially, because, you know, the wires come out the same side of the motor. One of them goes this way, the other one goes that way. I thought it was the one going this way, but it turned out to be the one going that way. And then at that point, it was, you know, once I got that wire out of the way, then there wasn't anything else stopping it. So it pretty much is just, I didn't try the lipstick trick, because at that point I was already confident that it was as far down as it's gonna go. And the only reason it's not going down any farther is because the tray is actually hitting the chassis and the pod. But I still have some more work to do on it. You know, it's like I said, it's a little twisted seemingly, so I might strip it down and try to flatten it. But, you know, after Pat helped me loosen up the rear end, it's going good. So I'm tempted to not mess with it, because I'm likely to make it worse through the process of messing with it.
See, that was going to be my question. Like, what shade did you choose to use?
I mean, it would have been blue or yellow, right? Yeah. Henry or Jim, do you got any questions or things that you want to share? Let's take Henry first, because he's first on my screen. Unmute. There you go.
First, I'm going to try to the first time to share screen.
Okay.
So I have to push the button share screen first.
Yep, and then you choose what you want to share, and then click the share button at the bottom of that.
And
okay, so we see your folder of pictures.
Yeah, and then
So
I picked one picture.
So
You are share screening, are you saying?
Yeah, so we still only see your folder. So stop your sharing, and now share again, but pick the photo that you've already opened.
Yeah, open the photo first and then share. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's going to take a second.
Sometimes it does. Jim, while Henry's working on the photo sharing, what did you have?
This is a future event, and it's not slot car exactly, but it is racing related. If you are a NASCAR fan and you haven't heard, the first race of next year is going to be held at the LA Coliseum on a purpose-built temporary asphalt track, quarter mile.
Interesting.
I thought it was April 1st yesterday when I heard that announcement. And my comment is, I would assume that since it's at the LA Coliseum, which is very close to Electric Dreams, that they would be purchasing a suite and we'd all be invited down there to watch the race.
There we go.
Unfortunately, the Electric Dreams representatives are not on the call. I'll talk to Marco tomorrow, see if they're planning anything.
But that just blew my mind that they're going to have the first. It's the Busch Clash, so it's not non-points race. And instead of being at Daytona, it's going to be inside the LA Coliseum. I assumed it would be dirt, but it's going to be a temporary asphalt.
Temporary quarter-mile asphalt. Yeah, I saw that.
Right. Yep.
Well, they used to do that in the 60s. Wasn't there like a race around Dodger Stadium or something? Or
I'm not sure. Well, Dodger Stadium, they used to race sports cars, I remember.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because oh gosh, what was his name?
And
Dave
Angel
McDonald.
Stadium too.
Yeah, Dave McDonald won in the Cobra. That's right.
Yeah. They have raced at Soldier Field in Chicago, and I think in this, whether it's the 50s or 60s. So there is a precedent for this. But like I said, it will be the first race with this new generation of car also, even though it's just the Busch Clash exhibition race, but it's going to open the NASCAR season, so it's going to be crazy.
Next, they're going to be racing in a parking lot in Vegas.
Yeah,
no, that's Formula One. I assume that's what you're referring to back when they ran the Formula One race in the season.
Yeah, the guys absolutely hated it. They said it was the worst go-kart track they've ever driven in their lives.
That sounds funny. Well, that'll be interesting to see how that goes. Henry, did you get the picture thing figured out?
No.
Okay, well, feel free to keep trying. If we see a picture pop up, then we'll know that it's Henry sharing his picture. Dewan had more topics for me to cover last week that we didn't actually get to. Dewan, did you want to bring that up, or do you want me to just refer to my notes here? You don't remember which one it was? Okay, so the one that we didn't get to was, are there different organizations that write standardized rules for racing and various clubs adopt those rules and possibly make modifications, or does everyone just develop their own set of rules from scratch or copy others and modify? Bottom line, are there governing bodies like DISCA, for example? And DISCA, for those who don't know, is the Digital Slot Car Association, which has a set of rules for the actual conduct of the event, as well as car specs for digital racing, specifically oxygen digital racing. I know that there are maybe a couple of other kind of governing bodies, like in HO, I think there's kind of a set of rules or specs that is adopted in relatively big circles, but not very many. Maybe in the 124th world. Does anybody want to hit that question for Dewan? Dewan, did you have an expansion of that?
Well, I just wanted, because I'm in the sports world of sports, managing a governing body of bowling, and that's why I kind of spawned the question, because we set governing rules and guidelines and have tournaments that has very specific routines. But that's where it came from. But go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. Does anybody want to take that? Go ahead, Dennis.
I think you've got to look at, certainly internationally, there's nothing at 1/32nd scale that I know of. Internationally, at 1/24th scale, there's the ISRA, the International Slot Racing Association, and they control a set of races and world championship events for what we would call steel cars, right? Eurosport 124th and 132nd, and other classes like that. In 124th scale in the US, there's the USRA, United Slot Racers of America, and they have always had at least 2 divisions, they used to call them. They have one set of rules for wing cars and one set of rules for the steel flat track cars. But I think the British guys will tell you that that they're a lot more organized there in terms of 132nd scale than we are here. But certainly on an international level, I've heard that the ISRA are starting to work on something for 132nd scale plastic frame cars, and it's mostly happening in Eastern Europe at the moment. So that's what I know right now.
John, sounded like you might have, Mr. Underwood, sounded like you might have had some input on that.
Yeah, as Dennis was saying, we are a little bit more organised. Doesn't always run to plan, as you know, but there you go. You've got CSCRA, which is the Classic Slot Car Racing Association, I think, something like that. That developed from something else. Mick Kerr runs the CSCRA sort of side of it. So it's predominantly for old classic cars, pre-wars up to 1982, I think it is. There's various subclasses. So obviously you don't want to be racing a 50s Formula 1 car against a mid-70s Formula 1 car. The main constraints are it must be to scale. So it's got to be a scale model. And the only other constraint is wheel sizes and ride heights. Any motor, any gearing, any chassis. So plastic, brass, whatever. We've got a national series for GT3s. That's readily available on Slot Forum. I should it should be in the events and pinned, I should think. But it's like any, a lot of clubs locally, obviously these clubs are, no one really races the same class. It's always a problem when you go to another club. You've got to try and read the rules. Sometimes some clubs don't, can't have good access to them, but it can be a problem. But you can go along as a guest, as long as you're not going to beat all the home drivers, you can race whatever you want normally, As I say, nationally, most clubs do their own thing. Some allow, different tyres, obviously. Some want standard solid hubs against air hubs. But the other thing, as Dennis was saying, I know the ISRA, is it, whatever it was, they're trying to sort something out. I think NSR are going, obviously, we run a lot of classes to Italian rules. Wales and West is NSR Classics is the Italian rules. There's a Welsh GP running the new NSRs in November, running to the NSR rules. So there's loads of rules about. Have a look at them. You can always adopt them to suit your own needs.
Yeah, it does seem that there's not a whole lot of, definitely very few, if any, international, rules or governing bodies for 132nd scale. Even very few for national, so it basically kind of boils down to what the local clubs are doing, and even then, like you were saying, John, even the club down the street doesn't race the same stuff as your club does, or vice versa. So it seems to me that things are a little bit different in the HO world. Jim, do you want to address the HO side of things?
Well, HO does have there's different organizations, but there's some relatively common rules between a lot of them in the Magna cars and super stock and things like that. And then there's open, which are just crazy fast. I don't race Magna cars, don't care for them. Same with wing cars, but in the freight cars, even, freight cars is a niche within HO cars. And even within that niche, they can't figure out a common set of rules. For instance, the race you went at allows 12-tooth pinion gears. The real freight, I say the real freight because it's the original freight, does not. At the Coral, which is probably the second biggest race for freight cars, they run brakes. The freight cars on the West Coast where it started, none of the tracks are wired for brakes. So even within a small niche, we can't get along, so to speak. So yeah, So there's some relatively common classes in HO, but some are just kind of all over the place.
Yeah. So even though there are like governing, you could say, okay, there's a governing body that says, okay, if you want to race these cars, then here are the rules that you should be following. But then any group or club can just say, okay, we're going to do mostly that, except allow these things, like the other chassis or different pinions or brakes versus no brakes. I loved having brakes. Those cars will coast forever with no brakes. So I definitely liked
I can build the brakes into the car, so it's a different build.
Yeah.
And there's one organization, HOPRA for HO cars, but they weren't the originators of the fray. So they run what they call, I think they're Nostalgia Superstock or whatever. And they're very similar to the fray rules, but I think they run brakes. So it's just all over the place. The fray for fray cars is the original, even though it's not a sanctioning body, it's one race. But most places, especially on the West Coast, have adopted their rules.
Jeremy, you put your hand up during this conversation. Did you have something to add on that?
Yeah, we were talking a few weeks ago about the Scale Electric person who wanted to visit clubs in the UK. This idea about a unified set of rules is always, I've heard this since I started joining, like, why isn't there one? This really has to come from a manufacturer. When Scale Electric comes out with a new car, why don't they include something in a web page and a link where clubs can go and a unified rule for this car that we just put out, and a little note in there or something, and that way I could take my car over to Greg's track, and if we're both following the unified rules for this car, I'm in. I don't think we can do this individually. I think it has to come from a manufacturer, at least kicking off the process.
That's what NSR do in Europe.
Do they? There you go.
NSR running, obviously they're Italian, but they organise obviously with the relevant country. They race in the UK at Nascar World. They go to Sweden. Obviously a lot of Spanish connections. Obviously they go to Germany, various places. Go on the NSR website and there's loads of rules for various classes, classics, GT3s, Formula One. Obviously, it's all their cars. But then look at Scale Auto. They organise bigger events as well in Europe. There's loads of events in Europe. Just look at the rules. You may have to cut and paste it and translate it, but it's there are bodies out there, but I think Scale Electric's the last person I'd look at doing a set of rules for.
Well, I just threw Scale Electric up there because I was thinking about a large company. Even Carrera could do it with just whatever car they come out with. Just throw some generic rules out there for us to follow. I mean, nobody's going to follow them perfectly. Every club's going to do what they want, but at least give 10 rules.
Done it. They did it a few years ago. They got Gary Skip, obviously runs Disca. He's done a couple of videos on how to tune a car. Take the car out the box, run it around the track. It's doing 5-second laps. Gary takes it off. I think he does the brakes, the tires, lubes it, possibly glues stuff, puts it back on the track, and it's doing 4-second laps. It just does it in various stages, and there's, as you know, there's hundreds of YouTube videos out there that show you that type of thing.
But that's not really a matter of rules, though, is it? That's a matter of that's.
No, but they are trying to go there. I remember speaking to Adrian Norman years ago. Adrian's a racer like the rest of us, and he took in an NSR and a Sotic. These cars work on tracks, plastic tracks and wood tracks without magnets. That's how we need to build a car. Took him to the technical department. We're not interested, or the accountant said we're not interested. We can't, justify sort of tooling, all that sort of stuff. So, but that was the previous management. It depends on how they want to go. The next management got Sotic involved, doing the Lancer PCR chassis. That was a different sort of management to what we've got now.
It seems like it's not so much are there rules out there, or is there even groups or a group or a manufacturer who's putting it out there. It's how do we get lots and lots of racing groups to adopt them? Leo, it looks like you might have some thoughts on this topic. Don't forget to unmute.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah, in the UK, there's kind of like a parallel universe slot car world which is known as the British Slot Car Racing Association. They run, very specialised 1/24th scale Lexan-bodied flying machines, and therefore they tend to stick to themselves. Rarely feature on the forums. You rarely hear BSCRA mentioned on the forums. I have to admit, I don't really know much about them, but they are a governing body within the UK, and there are clubs which basically perform to their rules and don't do anything else. There's a club in Scotland, in Dunfermline in Scotland. Basically, I'd be frightened to go there because it's a BSCRA track. It's not. They don't race electric cars generally. I think they do occasionally, but in general terms, they're a BSCRA type club. So yeah, so that exists in the UK as at that level.
Alan, what you got?
Everything? Okay, I'm unmuted. On that topic about standardizing rules and things like that, I mean, NSR had this recent thing where they've given out cards. Let me share my screen. Okay, none of that works. I need to share my internet connection. No, that's not. None of that is working. OneDrive, Google Drive, Box, Photo, Document, nothing. Can't share what I wanted to share with you.
Is there a link that you can put in the chat that I can bring up, or tell me where to look?
I can do that. Let's see. Well, I had it up and it's not there now.
Tell us what to Google.
Yeah, tell us what to Google.
While he's doing that, let's just say that in the early days of slot car racing, when competitive cars were not things that you bought over the counter, there were a lot of organizations that created a lot of rules because everybody was building cars, and so you needed to build the cars yourself to a set of rules. So in the UK, they started with the ECRA, the Electric Car Racing Association, which turned into the BSCRA eventually. In South Africa, there was the South African Model Car Association, which still exists. And I guess in Italy and Spain and Australia and a bunch of other places, there have been those same kind of organizations. And the USRA was that for 1/24 scale cars in the US. But nowadays, the only time the manufacturer is going to get involved will be when they want to run a series that promotes their car. So you're going to get an NSR series with a set of NSR rules, and they're going to say you can use NSR cars, you can use NSR parts, but you can't use anybody else's parts and things like that, right? And then they run like the NSR Nationals that are going to be run at Cloverleaf in Michigan. Or Great Traditions run these other things for Sideways and a couple of others. And those are very restrictive rules, usually, that say, you can do what you like, except you can't use anybody else's parts, and so I haven't seen, other than what Leo was talking about and what I've been talking about, I haven't seen anything that would allow internationally one structure of rules that would allow anybody to come along, race a slotted or a scale auto or an NSR or some other car, a Thunder slot car, all in the same race, all under one set of rules, except when it comes to proxies.
What was that, John?
You could use the Disca rule set, the Euro series,
and then just
take a digital track, just run the manual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's possible. But I mean, nobody's set it up that way right now. You couldn't go onto the internet and say, I want to find a unified set of rules for racing 1/32 scale plastic cars.
But this is not an old issue. I mean, if you look back at the old car model magazines, there was NAMRA and all these other organizations as well, right, Dennis?
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's not a new issue by any manner of means.
It's not,
and it's always been a matter of some of some discussion amongst everybody as to how important is it that you have one unified set of rules. I mean, we've had that conversation in 1/24 scale retro racing for quite a while. You know, should you have one set of rules? And the answer is, while there's an internet and people can see the rules ahead of time, the answer is no. You don't need one set of rules because it's really easy for everybody to understand what the other guys are doing and decide whether you want to play. And if you want to play, then you modify your car or you create a car that fits their rules.
The age-old question. Jeremy, you still have your hand up. Did you have additional input or additional questions, or did I just not put your hand down? There we go.
All
right. No worries. Just want to make sure. All right, Jim, what you got?
Dennis, has there been any thought about getting one of those spec series NSR slotted whatever out to the West Coast for to electric greens? Because everyone I've ever seen has been 2,000 miles from me, so it's just not.
Yeah, I hear you, and I haven't seen that yet. I think that Electric Dreams is still trying to find their feet in that part of the hobby. It may well come, but it's not there yet.
Thanks.
What are you guys talking about?
Getting like the NSR Nationals, which are always held at Cloverleaf, or the Races Sideways National Series that Great Traditions try to run, that is supposed to have regional races all over, right? And then a single national final somewhere. That's not happening yet out here. And part of it, I think, is that the Great Traditions, or the guys who are doing that work of distributing and getting that thing running, they're still thinking at individual club level and home track level, and maybe not at the level of competitive retailers or competition retailers who might have a track that they would be able to run on.
I remember something like that right when I started racing, 10 plus years ago. SCX did a thing where, I went to Fantasy World Hobbies, where they had their big track that's now in one of our IMSA members' homes. And we raced SCX cars according to the rule set that they had set, and the winners of that race were then going to go to Chicago or somewhere else to race in some larger competition. So it looks like so Alan has shared a link to the Nascar Wood Slot Car Club Facebook page. Is that what you were trying to get at earlier, Alan?
Yeah, that was it. We were talking about rules earlier. So, NSR had this initiative where they sent out this box full of Porsches to clubs that applied. And if you just scroll down there a little bit further down, that's the one. Just click on that. We're in the screen out. We ran our first club night.
Okay, so I couldn't hear that because of all the video noise. Go ahead and say that again.
Yeah, NSR supplied cars to several clubs that applied for these Porsches. And we ran our first one. And it's good for NSR because they basically said, here are the cars, you can have them for free. And here are the rules. You have to use NSR parts. You can't modify these cars. So just hit a minute worth of this video. It's worth seeing. Okay, maybe 30 seconds is enough of that video, that's fine. But I think I agree with something that John said earlier, that it has to come from the manufacturers. NSR are very good at this. They set down the rules. They're not great. They're written in Italian. You have to, and then they convert them, and that's not translate them. It's not so good. But at least they have that, and NSR are promoting their product by promoting competition and setting down specifications for the cars. It has to come from the manufacturers.
I mean, it seems that's, you know, there seems to be two ways that it's gotten a foothold, and that's either from the manufacturers, like NSR is obviously making a go at it now, and then back in the 50s, 60s, like Dennis was talking about, the Cox and whatnot probably did similar things. Or no, okay, well,
No, it was actually an organization it was almost racetracks and racetracks owners, wasn't it, Dennis?
Yeah, I mean,
before the manufacturer.
The history of 1/24th scale is really all about commercial raceways, and the manufacturers themselves really didn't get involved much in making rules.
Well,
of course, I mean, by the time the racing organizations got going, the manufacturers, the big manufacturers, Cox and Classic and Monogram, were making toys, and that's still the case. Carrera and Scalextric make toys; they don't make racing slot cars. We happen to race them, but that's not their business model, right? And so the competition is secondary to them. They're not going to get involved. They may support other people's initiatives, and I'm sure they would, and they should, but they're not going to go and start trying to organize and if I was Scalextric, and I would say, okay, I'm going to set up a set of rules for a World Scalextric Championship. It's not going to be a World Slot Car Racing Championship. It's going to be a World Scalextric Championship. I couldn't care less about what everybody else is going to do. So in that respect, I don't know that the manufacturers are the correct source for those kind of rules.
Well, and there was only one real manufacturer that had a team in those days, Dennis, wasn't it Rusket? And they were kind of a minor player.
Yeah, Rusket were more of a player in the racing circle than they were in the toy circle in any case, right? Pittman had a team, but whether Revell and Monogram guys like that didn't. The guys who had teams were the manufacturers that were producing racing equipment: Cobra, Mura, Pittman. The motor manufacturers, the chassis manufacturers, not the ready-to-run homestead car manufacturers by any manner of means.
Well, actually, a few years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago now, Scalextric actually did a world championship, but the rules were pretty simple. You used their flagship 6-car digital set, the Scalextric Digital Platinum set that was with the new power base at the time. And basically, I think it was just one person at a time raced, whichever car they wanted to, and it was just a best lap championship. So, whatever is the fastest car in this set, people would always gravitate towards, and you just, ran a bunch of laps. I forget what the format was. I think it was like 10 laps or 20 laps. And then whatever your fastest was, as reported by the power base, and then that went up onto the worldwide roster of Scalextric World Championship. And then, there was a world champion, declared by Scalextric for that competition. But, that there were no tuning rules, right? It was basically out of the box. So, anybody who competed in that event was, at the mercy of whatever condition the cars came in, or even worse or better, depending on the situation, the condition of the car once you got to it, right? So it could be worse for wear because of all the people competing before that, or it might have rounder tires from all the competing before that. So talk about a crapshoot of a competition. But they did it, and it was advertising. As far as a slot car manufacturer, it's advertising. They don't care about actual competition. It's just another way to market the product and advertise and get the word out. All press is good press. Blah blah blah. Yada yada yada.
But that's the way car manufacturers look at racing anyway. That's
how it works. We're at our 2-hour mark. Petrucci, did you have a last parting thought on this topic for us?
Yes. On Scalextric, did they bring a set out called Race the World, where they had the internet connection,
Yeah.
Race other races around the world.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I got into slot cars. I got it all set up. And as I went to race, they said that they don't control it anymore. They cancelled it.
Yeah, yeah, and then came digital. Yeah, that was their product before the digital came out. I thought that was a great idea, but I think it was before its time. I don't know. Maybe they should take a crack at that again. I don't know.
Because, people are on the P2 and that playing, and they tried to do it like a real light race, and they just didn't keep it going. That's the trouble with Scale Electric. They start something, it goes on for a little while, then they cancel it.
Yeah, and there hasn't been one of those world championships since the first one. I think they kind of hinted at doing it again, but then they never did. So
it's
yeah,
like
well, that's it.
Going around talking. He's talking about. I watched the little video. He's talking about setting up, going to other clubs and finding out how they're driving and what they're driving and trying to get involved. But
we'll see what comes of that, if anything. We're at the end of our 2-hour recording, but of course the chatting will continue. Thanks, Petrucci, for that. And I'm going to hit the stop record button, and then everybody say bye. Bye. Bye-bye.